Hi everyone, it's Amy, GablesStitcher, here with a special edition Flosstube video for you today. It is the end of December 2022, and you know what that means. It's bowl season. Every time you turn on the TV, here in the United States anyways, you can find a college football bowl game. Two football teams who have probably never played each other before, will never play each other again, fly out to a city that they have zero connection to, and play in a football game that is sponsored by a company. I think this is a uniquely American thing. But here on Flosstube, our own little cross-stitch portion of YouTube, we have our own bowl season. We have WIP parades and we have planning videos. And I love cross-stitch bowl season. I save all the planning videos and WIP parades I can find. I watch them through January, maybe into February. And I love it. It's a great way to get to know a stitcher. You can see all their projects at once. You can find out what people have planned for the next year and continue to follow them. And it is the best time of the Flosstube year. In fact, if you're a Flosstuber and you make a video, a WIP parade, or a planning video, do me a favor and link it in the comment below because I will add it to my list. So welcome to bowl season. I haven't done a WIP parade in 2 years and I thought it was time. So I went through, made a list of my projects, ditched a few, looked at what I was planning to start for next year, came up with a plan, made a list, and decided let's do it. Let's start by saying what a WIP parade is in case you've never watched a cross-stitch video before. A WIP parade, WIP stands for work in progress, is when somebody shows you all of their cross-stitch projects they are working on. Some people have one project at a time. Some people work on 100 projects at a time. There's no rules in cross-stitch. You do what you enjoy because this is a hobby and it needs to be fun. That's why we do it. I have somewhere between those two. I went and did a tally and I have 36 active WIPs and I have 8 legacy WIPs. So I have 44 projects total. You're like, what's a legacy WIP, Amy? It's something I made up. I have been cross-stitching for a long time and I have some projects that are 20 years old. 20, yes, 20. I have decided that once a project hits 10 years, it is no longer what I consider an active project because obviously it wasn't a priority because I haven't finished it in 10 years, but I still want to finish it. So those projects get legacy status. I pick 1 or 2 a year, put it into my active rotation with the plan of finishing it. And since I've started doing this, I've been very successful. I have finished, I think, 4 legacy WIPs, bringing me from 12 to 8. And I'm picking 2 this year to go into my active rotation. The goal is to have no more legacy WIPs. We'll see what happens. But that's the goal. So I'm going to do this WIP parade a little bit differently. In the past, I have done my projects from oldest to newest. We're going to mix it up this year. I am going to show you one project that's not going to make it into next year. Let's do that one now. If it does make it into next year, it will be the first one finished. But my goal is to finish this before the clock strikes midnight on December 31st. This is Prairie Schooler Christmas Samplers 2. It is book number 73. And I am working on this Santa Claus over here. I am dying to stitch this, but I'm making myself wait. I am using all the called for DMC. This is just an old Christmas card from a friend that I put some thread on so I can keep the project self-contained, which is something I like to do if possible. And here is where I am. This is being stitched on an 18 count fiddler's cloth with the called for DMC. I am using 2 strands of floss and I am loving the way this is turning out. So I have 2/3 of it done, and I just have the little reindeer on the bottom to go. I have 10 days. I think I can finish this. That's the plan. And if that works, I'm replacing this with a new start, so I will still be going into the new year with 36. So there we go. What's the plan? Well, the plan is I really want to reduce my WIPs. I know I say this every WIP parade video, but I really, really, really want to do it this year. I do not like having this many projects. And I have a lot of projects that are pretty close to being finished. So let's see how we can get them out. I have picked 23 projects to focus on this year. 23 and 23. I've joined a Facebook group called WIP Warriors, which has some challenges associated to that. I think the Facebook group is closed, and my track record in Facebook groups and keeping up with challenges is not good. So we'll see what happens. But this was good. I picked 10 WIPs that I have really close to being finished, and I think I can knock out. And when those are finished, I will replace them with other projects I would like to finish. And I put in a handful of projects that there was no way I will finish them this year, but I would like to get some good work into them. So those will be focus projects this year. First, let's do those projects that I think I can finish. Okay, let's move on to the 23 projects that I am going to focus on in 2023. The first two I am going to show you are my legacy WIPs that are being promoted to active WIPs, and I really want to finish this year. If I get no other project finished in 2023, it needs to be this. Let's turn it the right way. This is the Constant Thayer sampler by R&R Reproductions. And yes, this is the only picture I have of the sampler. I took a class with R&R Reproductions in 2003 when I started that sampler. And it is not complete yet. It is older than my oldest child. It will legally be able to buy a drink in 2024, which is why I must finish it in 2023. This is what I have done. The border met up. That is very exciting. I finished the border a couple of years ago because I was thinking if the border doesn't match up, I am not even going to finish the sampler, but it did. This is stitched on 32 count R&R linen. I have no idea which one. And it is stitched with mostly DMC and one cotton overdye. In 2003, when this was released, the class, they pretty much weren't many cotton overdyes. It is stitched two strands of floss over 2 linen threads, except for the wording, which you can see is over one strand of floss over 1 linen thread. Why have I not finished this? One reason is I did have children shortly after I took this, so my time was limited. Second reason is the chart's really hard to read. It's a hand-drawn chart. And I just got frustrated very easily. So when I was stitching on things, I would reach something else. My plan is to scan the chart into my iPad to make it a PDF so I can blow it up. And I think that will help. And like I said, if I finish no other project next year, it will be that one. It won't be the first project I finish though, because she's a big girl. Second legacy project that is being promoted is Schoolgirl Basics by Jess Nan. This was a class I also took in 2003 or 2004. I don't remember. I am using the call for materials. It does call for silk that came for the class. And it has beads. And I believe it is stitched on 28 count white cash out linen. And that is all I have done. I think I stitched that in the class and I never picked it up after. It is not a large sampler. However, Just Nan samplers do have a decent amount of beading and specialty stitches. So it is a little time consuming, but fun. There's great description. She has great drawings of the stitches. I just need to sit down and do it. I did finish the other class project I took in 2020. So those are my 2 legacy projects for the year. My first, moving on to the 10 projects, I think I can finish quickly, relatively quickly, for my active WIPs in progress. First one is Big Hearted Tiny Town by Heart and Hand. I love this series. Like, they're so cute. Loved this one when it came out. I plan on finishing mine into the drum. I am stitching it with most of the calls for overdyes in DMC. I think I picked a few from my own collection. Like I said, I love these. However, when I started stitching on it, I really didn't enjoy it. So this may be my one and only Tiny Town. I will finish it, but I didn't love it like I was hoping. I am stitching this on a 32 count Belfast linen in lilac. And I did change the color of the hill. The hill is supposed to be pink. I stitched it in green because the colors remind me of Sweet Tarts, and there's green Sweet Tarts. So there we are. This should be a very easy finish. Should is the key word there. We'll see. Next project is Primitive Hair, Old Salem Broom Company. I love Primitive Hair designs. She has a lot of Salem centered designs. I grew up in Salem and the surrounding areas, and that's where my YouTube handle comes from, GablesStitcher. My college job was working at the House of Seven Gables in Salem, and so love her Salem designs. They hit all the right spots for me. This project is one that I thought I was going to UFO. I had very little done. I pulled it out to work on it. I could not put it down. Loved it. These are my 2 floss colors I'm using. This is a Victorian Motto. I was in our floss club for quite some time, so I have a lot of her threads. I sub them in when I can. And this is just DMC 310, which is black. This is stitched on a 40 count Wren linen by Picture This Plus. And I love it. It looks like an old board. So it's perfect. It's hold it the correct way. And this is how much I have done. When I pulled this out in October, I had maybe 100 stitches done on it. And then I pulled it out and I couldn't put it down. So, love it. That is almost to the bottom on the side. I can't wait to finish that next year as well. All right, the next project is another Halloween project. It is by Lizzie Kate. It's called Eek Boo Hiss. I am stitching this with the DMC conversion that's provided. It's called for mostly weeks, but there is a DMC conversion. I think I darkened up some of the DMC just to make it a little bit brighter. There's Boo. It is done. So I have Eek and Hiss. They'll go on the same piece of fabric. This is a 28 count coffee tea dyed Monaco that I dyed. Fun stitch. Should be relatively quick. Famous last words. But that is the next one. Next project I don't have a picture for, so I will insert one here. This is Nantucket Christmas Houses by Hemlock and Rye Stitchery, who is my friend Julie, Kansas City girl on Colorado World. I am stitching this with the called for threads, which are mostly DMC, and I believe she calls for 3 overdyes. And this is being stitched on 40 count Vintage Country Mocha by Zweigart, which is one of my favorite fabrics. It is very, very versatile. And here we are. She released a border, which I am stitching some of and modifying it. I don't know if I'm gonna put it on the top. I think I'm just gonna put it on the bottom. And that is where we are. Middle house is completely done. First house needs a roof. This one needs a roof and fill in, but really enjoy stitching that. She has 4 series of those, 1 for each season, and I do plan on doing all of them. For some of these projects, that one included, as I finish one in the series, I will likely replace it with the next one in the series. So finishing a WIP, but just replacing it with the next one. Okay, next on the finish pile, I will insert a picture for this one. It is called Silent Night from Stitching Through the Years. She is on Etsy. I love her designs. Something about her designs like really speak to me. This I had planned on being my snow day project. I have learned that I don't like stitching on a project for just a day. Pulling it out, stitching on a day, nope. When I pull out a project, I tend to work on it for a couple of weeks. So we're just gonna finish it. I am stitching it with, I think, the called for DMC, but then I substituted in my own overdyes. Here, I'll hold it up here. The light is really blowing these out, but there you see. Mostly color and cotton, I think. And I have a very small star on it because I stitched on it for one snow day and then never went back to it. This is where I am. This is really blown out. This is a Fiber on a Whim 40 count. I don't even know the color, but it's a gorgeous like dark slate blue. You will see more of her designs in this WIP parade because I love her designs. Okay, next one that I am going to show you. Julie, if you're watching, look away. This is from Stephanie Lindy Stitches, Dumpster Fire Friends Forever. I am making this for my friend Julie, Kansas City girl, Colorado World. We're stitching it for each other. She is done. I am not. It's going up now. So don't look, Julie. Here we are. I am stitching this on a piece of fabric that was in my stash out of the scrap. I think it's 36 count. So loose 36 count. So I'm using 2 strands over 2. And I hope I wrote down the colors I'm using. I hope past Amy was kind to future Amy, because otherwise I'm going to be going through my box to see what matches. Okay, next project in the we can finish it category is Stitches Through the Years. This is Summer in the Country is the name of it. Started this last year at the Flosstube, New Jersey retreat with my friend Lynette, who is homesteading on the home front on Flosstube. Love it, love it, love it, love it. She has released 2 more in this series. So once again, I may or may not start them when this one's done. We'll see, but I do plan on stitching them. I think I'm using none of the called for this. This is all overdyes I pulled from my stash. If I had it, I think I used it, but I think I had maybe one or two. The rest of them were just use what I have. This is being stitched on a 40 count linen, mystery linen. I think it's Picture This Plus relic, like old Picture This Plus is what it feels like. And this is where I am. I love this. Like, part of me thinks I should save this to finish at the New Jersey retreat this year and start the next one. But I don't know if I can wait that long because I really want to finish this and I want it up my wall. Give me sheep in a red house and I'm in 110%. All right, moving right along. Next one, and the ones I think I can finish. This is Susanna Eccles, 1853. This is by Mama Loves You GB. She also has an Etsy shop. This is a small little wee sampler. Welsh sampler. Love it. I'm using all the called for, which is mostly DMC. And I'm stitching on a 32 count linen that I dyed myself, but it's really the color of Zweigart flax. So here we go. I love this. This is a fun stitch. It's small. Colors are very bright. I made a modification. While I was stitching this, Queen Elizabeth passed away. So I put her monogram above the crown. And yeah, there is a surprising amount of stitching in this little sampler, but it is a lot of fun. I want to just, in case you don't watch me regularly, let me just tell you what I usually do with my floss. I have a Master DMC set that I work from. I would put my bobbins in projects and then I would never see them again because, as you see, I sometimes have projects for 20 years that are active. So what I started doing is making myself floss tags, and I literally use my recycling to do it. Use cereal boxes, spinach pie boxes, punch them out, and I measure out some DMC for the length I like, usually, you know, a couple of lengths of it, put it on there so I can keep it all together. And then when I am done with that project, I can put the DMC back around my bobbin in my master set and it's all done. But I'm not looking for, like, when I need DMC 349, it's in my box. I don't need to figure out which project it's in. So, because I was talking for so long, let's show Susanna one more time. Love it. So that is how I kit up my projects. That's what I have found works best for me for now. I have a hole puncher, punch them up, and my DMC master set is able to stay intact, yet I am able to take a project with everything I need to go stitch with a friend, go to a retreat, or even just go stitch in my kitchen. It all works out. Next one that I think I can finish quickly is a Neapolitan sampler by Hemlock and Rye Stitchery. My friend Julie again. I will pop a picture in because I do not have one printed out. I am stitching that with the called for threads, which are all DMC. I love this little sampler. Stitching it on 40 count ale, which is much darker than it's showing. And it's going to pretty much fit in this little piece of fabric that you see here. By a little piece, I mean what's showing, not the entire little piece. And those are the threads. They really makes you think of Neapolitan ice cream. Love it. Julie has reproduced quite a few samplers and I like all of them. So this is another one that I will probably replace this with another sampler. So I think that's 2 in that pile that I said I would replace. So if I finish 8, I'm still making forward progress there. Last one in the I think I can finish a category, but this is one that will also be replaced. Green Christmas by GablesStitcher. This is another designer that hits the right spots for me. Love it. I started this Christmas tree. I haven't even shown it my Flosstube yet. These are the colors for this project. I started the Christmas tree over Thanksgiving. And this is 20 count Ada in the color Vintage Country Mocha. It's again, love that fabric, very versatile. And these are the flosses. So that tree is almost done. Let's get the bottom to do. So my plan, once again, I said this is planning as well as WIP Parade, is when I finish this, is to replace it with another small, whether it be ornament or small project. I'm going to 3 retreats next year. I don't want to be scrambling a couple of weeks before the retreat when I decide I want to do the smalls exchange, but I have nothing stitched. So my plan is to also always have a small going in my active WIP rotation. So I kitted up, I'll show it in my next update video when I'm showing this project. I have a project bag that I kitted up a bunch of smalls and put them in there. So when I finish this, I can just move on to the next one. I do plan on stitching all 3 of these. I don't think I'm going to stitch them all 3 in a row. I think I'll stitch this one and move on to another small in that bag. So those are the projects I think I can knock out in my 23 focus. I'll be back maybe later today, maybe tomorrow, with the projects in that 23 group that I would like to get work into, but I will not be able to finish. And when you see the size of them, you will understand. Be right back. We're back. I put everything away, got out the next round of stuff, edited my first video and fixed the camera angle so you don't see just hair. It's amazing how just a little change in camera angle makes a big difference. And we'll do the next pile here. I looked back at what I did. The last pile of WIPs you saw, there was 12 WIPs, 2 legacy, 10 active. Those are ones that I think I can finish in 2023. So those are all pegged for a finish. This next pile, there's 8 here. These are ones I want to see forward progress on. If I have a goal, I'll let you know. A couple of them, if I really get on a roll, I might be able to finish, and I'll show you those too. So first in this pile, and this will bring me to 20 out of 23, and I'll tell you what is up with those last 3 after. You Belong to Me by Long Dog Samplers. I started this sampler August of 2022. Love it. As soon as I saw this, I knew I had to stitch it. I pictured the fabric and the thread in my brain, and I wasn't even sure like what fabric and thread it was going to be, but I knew the colors I needed to use, and I think I nailed it. I am stitching it on 40 count Bee's Knees by Seraphim Fabrics. She's one of my favorite fabric dyers, and that is a pretty true representation of color. The light is much better now. I usually film in the morning, but this afternoon light's pretty good. I'm stitching it with Anchor, the thread of the spool. It's Anchor 0170. FYI, there are different dye lots of this, which I found out the hard way, but I have enough dye lots, one dye lot to finish what I started. So here we are. Yeah, nothing's ironed, but it is what it is. Love it. I think this is one of those that has an outside shot of being finished, because when I'm stitching on it, I'm loving it and I'm not wanting to put it down. I started top center because I'm going to be playing a little bit of fabric chicken. And I have not finished a page, but I have almost 4 pages done. I had a little hole in the fabric that a friend repaired, so I'm working my way down there to cover up the hole. I'm almost there. So the fabric is more secure. Then I'll go back and start doing the top. I like to work from the top down. If I don't, I kind of get out of my mojo. Next project, I am calling White Tiger. It is from an Etsy designer. I'll put a picture up here because I do not have a printout. This is one of those Russian designers that unfortunately is not on Etsy at this time. I am stitching it with the Called for DMC on a 28 count navy even weave. And this is all I have. I forgot to check in Pattern Keeper to see what percentage I'm at. It's not a big design. This is an 1/8 of a yard of fabric and it will not fill up the 1/8. I started in the center, which, like I said, is not my preferred starting. I like to start top left and work my way down. But on this pattern, the best place to start was the center. This is not a ton of stitching, but there are blends. There's back stitch, and the dark fabric makes it difficult to stitch on. I would like to get significant work in that this year. I don't see myself finishing it, but I would like to get, you know, between 30 and 50% done. I think I'm close to 10%. I might be making that number up. I don't know. But I would like to get at least to 30% this year. All right, the next project on the list. Yeah, I'll take it out. It's a WIP parade. You're getting stuff out of Q-snaps. I'm taking things out of plastic. We're going all out for this bowl game here. This is Hogsmeade by Country Magic Stitch. This is one of my oldest current WIPs, active WIPs. I think I started at 2018. So it's been hanging around a while. Full coverage. I do not have it in Pattern Keeper, but it's a blocky design, not many colors, very easy to stitch. I find it very relaxing. And this is where I am. I am just about at the halfway point. I'm stitching this on 16 count Aida, 2 threads, 2 strands of floss. And it's like I said, this is halfway. So it's not a big design. This is another one. If I get in a roll, I could see myself possibly finishing this year, especially because at the bottom, there was a lot of just fill-in stitching. And if I get down to there, that's good retreat stitching. So this designer has a fantastic way with color and space and does a lot without a lot of colors. Next project I will put in another picture is the 2018 Modern Folk Embroidery Stitch Along. I have it on my sheet as the 4 Season Stitch Along. I'm not sure what the actual name of it is. So I started this in 2018. Figured I would finish it in 2018. Nope. This is stitched on 40 count cream Zweigart linen. And I really love how it's coming out. I think that's the first 3 months. January, February, March. I am stitching it with 1 strand of DMC 3802. I love variegated floss and fancy fibers like as much as the next person. But I gotta tell you, don't sell DMC short. This and that long dog that You Belong to Me, they're both in basic stock floss, and they're beautiful. One thing that got me kind of slow on this one is, I've shown this before, I started going the wrong direction. So I gotta frog this and really brush out the fabric. I don't know how far down it goes. Should probably measure. I might not need to frog it all, but I don't see myself finishing this year, but I would like to get a significant portion done. I mean, this is 3 months. It'd be nice to do at least another 3, maybe more. Next one on the list, Wicked Christmas by Sarah Grunami. I should be able to pronounce that because she's an Italian designer. I'm Italian, but I'm definitely Italian American. I love this. Halloween meets Christmas. Fantastic. I stitched a lot on this year. This I am stitching with all the call for floss, which is DMC. I'm stitching it on 20 count vintage country mocha Ada, and I told you, you'll see that fabric a lot. And this is what I have done. I mean, it's a big design. It's not going to take up quite this whole thing. I think this cloud, like this is about the middle. So I've done about half of the top, a little bit more fill in, and then this is another piece I've worked on at retreats. I build what I call the skeleton of the house, and then I can fill it in at the retreat. It's nice, easy stitching. Fun stitch. Do not see this being finished this year. However, I see it being worked on when I need some fill-in stitching. So once again, we'd like to see significant progress on it. Like I said, these projects most of them won't be finished this year, but if I get enough progress on them, I can put them in the finish in 2024 category. And when you have as many big projects as I do, that's something you need to think about. Otherwise, you're going to have projects that are 20 years old, like me. Don't let them become legacies. Next one, Peacock, Unicorn, and Badger by Scarlet Letter. Let me show you the chart. This is a gorgeous sampler. There are quite a few people who finished it. I went to Hobby House Needleworks last year in New York, and I saw the model of this. It's gorgeous. Really, really pretty. This is a full coverage design, but it's full coverage more of like that Hogsmeade where it's blocky versus full coverage like a heaven and earth design, very detailed chart. I am stitching it with the call for DMC. Once again, my little floss tags. These I did full skein up because it's a big project and I knew I'd be working on it for a significant amount of time. I am stitching it on mallow, 40 count mallow, 1 strand of floss. And this is such a fun stitch. It's like coloring. It really is. So this is another one where I'm doing some of the outline and fiddly stuff, and then I am filling in when I'm on a Zoom call or stitching with my stitching group or at a retreat. I worked on this a bunch this year, and then I really loved it. Then when I saw the model at Hobby House, I want to change this background green. The model is stitched in silks, and the background color is a really deep hunter green. Mine isn't. I think the DMC conversion on this is really, really good, but I have a few colors I'm going to test out in the background. One of my friends was like, you already did so much. Like, yeah, I did stitch a lot. Like I did. That's a lot of green. Look at how much more green there is to go. So I want to be happy with it. And right now when I look at it, I'm not sure I'm happy. So I will test out some of the other colors I got to see if I like them better. And if I do, I'll be taking the seam ripper out. No goals on this other than to nail down that background color and to enjoy stitching it. Last project in this category. And they send. I will put a picture in of that because I also do not have a picture. And they send is by Exemplar Dames. It is a very large sampler. It will be 3 feet tall when it's finished. I started this with a group of Frugal Yankee, some of my friends stitchers in the New England area. 2 of them finished it. I did it. This is where I am. I am stitching this on 40 count Vintage Country Mocha. Once again, very versatile fabric. I am stitching it with none of the called for. Take that back. I think I have 1 called for. I went through my Victorian Moss, words are hard today, Victorian Motto flosses and pulled out what I thought was a pretty palette. None of the called for. Doesn't need to be called for, just, you know, things work well together. And that's what I'm working with. This one, I would like to get the top third done. If you've watched me at all, I've talked about the headaches this chart has given me. It is not a hand-drawn chart. It's a very early computer-generated chart. It is very small. I blew it up onto blueprint paper, like literally blueprint paper. And the blueprint paper is a little bit too big to work with. So I'm going to try once again. This is what I'm going to put in as a scan and put in as a PDF and work on it from my tablet. So the original chart is on 3 pages. So think about how small that is, right? Because I said it's a 3 foot long sampler when it's done. I would like to finish the top third of the sampler. I'm about halfway done with the top third. So that is doable. And I do enjoy working on it when I'm not fighting with the chart. Number 20 in my 23 and 23 grouping. So these will be the charts. What you're looking at now will be what I am working on next year until I finish something, or I'm leaving 3 open slots so I can start something. This is one thing going into that slot. This is number 20. This is the Beatrix Potter Quaker Sampler by Needleprint Press. Stitchy Box has the rights to this, and they sell a PDF as well. So you can still get this. They don't have all the needle prints, but they do have this. I have had this forever, kitted up with the Call for Silk. I obviously have not started it. So there's a group of people starting it this New Year's Day. I think the hashtag is going to be something like Beatrix Potter, Quaker, Stitch Along. I don't know. Hashtag to be forthcoming. So I will be joining in with that because I think I have had this chart since 2007 or 2008, because the shop I bought it at closed in 2008 and I haven't started it. So good excuse to pull it out of the stash and to start it. So that is 20 projects. I will be working on those 20 and hopefully having quite a few finishes and progress. I have 3 open slots. So if I am absolutely feeling the need to start something, I can start it. Or if there's something from my other pile of WIPs, which will be the next segment of this video, I can pull it up into one of those 3 free spots. I wanted to give myself a little bit of flexibility. But that is plenty to focus on. Those are my focus projects. So that's going to be, let me put all this stuff away. And we will be back, probably not today, but I'll be back. Well, it'll be today for you, it'll be in a moment. But I'll be back with the last bit of my WIPs, which are, I've ranked them in order of which I think I can finish them, because I'm still thinking, once I finish those 10, what's going to come in next. So be back. Another day, another part of the WIP parade, and completely different hair because the weather is completely different today. I didn't say this at the beginning of the video, but I was thinking it now today. I'm going to put timestamps in the drop down box. So if you want to skip to different parts of the WIP parade, you'll be able to do that. So this is the legacy part of the WIP parade. This is not many WIPs. This is my projects that are 10 years old or older. They're not a priority to be finished this year. I showed you my 2 I pulled into the active rotation. 2 more will come in next year. And hopefully in a few years, these will all be gone. My next one in this grouping, I realized, is as old as my oldest WIP. This is Splendor 5 by the Heart's Content. This is a kit. It is 32 count linen with stitched over 1, so tiny. Stitched with DMC 823. I had started this with the kit fabric, and it was a very uneven linen, and I was not enjoying it. So I bought another piece of fabric that's linen, but it's a more even linen. It's 32 count Belfast, and this is where I am. So I guess technically, if I consider the start when I restarted this, it's not my oldest. It is really beautiful. It's fun to work on in little bits and pieces. And this is about 20% done. The chart's 5 pages, and I am almost done with the first page. The last time I worked on that, I realized that I really need magnification to work on small coats now. So with magnifiers, that will be more pleasurable to work on. The next one is Marriage of the Minds by the Drawn Thread. This is a gorgeous wedding sampler. Stitched in silk, and Drawn Thread has tons of specialty stitches, but fantastic diagrams. And yeah, it's really just, it's a nice stitch. I started this probably about 2005, 2006. I was thinking I would finish it for my husband's and my 10th anniversary. We're almost at 25, so I would like to finish for our 25th anniversary. That's the plan now. I'm stitching it with all the called for fibers, which are needlepoint silks and a couple of Glorianas. And it is stitched on, I believe, a 32 count wood shelt linen. Let's see, 32 count, yep. Because it is stitched on what is called for. So I'm going to unroll it up so you can see it. It is just gorgeous. Really, really a beautiful sampler. So I am almost at the halfway point. I didn't finish that one bear tree. But yes, this will probably come out next year as well, because if I want to finish it and frame it for my 25th, I'm going to need a little bit of leeway. I did think too, when I pulled this out, one of the reasons why I put it away, I was not looking forward to stitching the big white house. Remember what I said, how much I love red houses? I'm just going to change the color of the house. So I think we're going to change the color of the house to red, or maybe blue, but I don't think it's going to be white when I stitch it. Next, this is my newest legacy WIP. This one's probably 10, 11 years old. This is Jenny Bean's Friendship Sampler by Shakespeare's Peddler, who's Teresa Vignette. I stitched on this at a retreat I went to, stitching with all the called for. I'm pretty sure this is on a lakeside linen. And let's hold it up the correct way. I realized at one point that I was stitching the first house the wrong color. And so I put it away. Could I continue with it this color? I could. There was another, I want to say Jen Lee from Quirks and Stitches did the same thing. She stitched the first house with the wrong color. It's supposed to be red. The two symbols are very similar in the chart. So I'm going to rip it out and restitch it because I really like the red house. Next one. This is another class kit. Can you tell I was in a phase in the early 2000s going to classes? This I took at Celebrations and Needlework, which was where I took most of these classes. It is Sheep in the Meadow, basket and fob. Because of the sheep. Barbara Jackson, who is, I believe, Tristan Brooks Designs, taught the class. And here's all the kit materials. And this is where I am. Not a huge start. And I did not work on this after the class. And I can tell you, when I took this class, my middle one was in a stroller at Celebrations and Needlework with me. And I was pregnant. So I was very overwhelmed. But I would like to finish it. It's not a big project. A lot of specialty stitches, but once again, those are fun. You just need to make the time for them. Another class kit. This was a class I took with Jeanette Douglas. This is the 4 Seasons of Mystic. This project, this pattern is now available. I think it's just called 4 Seasons. I took it in Mystic, Connecticut, and she designed it for that class. All the threads. With the Jeanette Douglas class, like our project, you're using every thread, which is why they're so much fun. And for the class, she also kitted up these little accessories, pincushion, scissor fob, and needle book based on the chart. And I have all the materials there too. So one of my friends, Melissa, who is Geeky Witch here on Flosstube, took the class. We took the class together, and she's finished hers, and it's gorgeous. This is all I have done. First season. But I know it's doable because Melissa did it, and it's fantastic when it's stitched. Last 2 projects. One of these is not a legacy, but we're going to do it now because it's in the same notebook. We'll actually do it first. My ladies workbox. This was a class I took with Ellen Chester just a couple of years ago. And I have the box upstairs. It came with all the materials, so pull it over. How cute is this? Because it's like one of the things you finish is a little horn book. So she put the threads on a horn book. And this is how far I am. So when I took this class, actually before I took this class, I said I'm not taking any more classes until I finish all my class kits. And then Ellen announced she was teaching this class like really close to where I live. And I'd wanted to take that class for years, but she'd stopped offering it because she couldn't get the box. And then she was able to get the box again. And I'm like, all right, well, it's now or never. So I took it. But now I am done with classes until I finish these projects. Last one is another class. And this one is a legacy. I'm going to hold it up. It's this sampler here. It's called My Favorite Scottish Sampler. It is by Old Willow Designs. She used to make threads. Robin is her name. She used to, Old Willow used to be a line of overdyed threads. They were gorgeous. She stopped producing them. So the sampler is stitched with her overdyes. And this is how far I got. I took this the same weekend. I took the sheep one where I was pregnant and had a baby in a stroller. So that's my defense on this one. She is designing again. I had purchased something off of one of the Facebook groups, stash groups, recently, a couple of months ago, and turned out it was Robin. And when I was paying her, I messaged her and I was like, hey, are you Old Willow? And she's like, yes, I am. I think I'm going to be re-releasing some of my charts. And I was very excited to hear that because I love her designs. So if you are looking for Old Willow charts, I don't think she's going to do the threads. Some of them will be coming back. All right, 10 minutes for this segment, not bad. I'll be back with hopefully the last segment. I'm back. Last part of the WIPs. It's a big pile though. Let's do this. So these projects are projects that are not my focus for 2023, but if I finish some of those focus projects, some of these might move in. We shall see. As I was looking through them, I was like, I really like all these projects. It's a good problem to have, to really like your projects. Just moving my glass of water over because we don't want to spill it on the precious WIPs. So first project, Primitive Needle, Tombstone Spots. I am stitching this with a mix of called for fibers and ones that I pulled from my own, just comparable ones I pulled from my own stash of overdyes. This is a hard to find chart, unfortunately, and I just have a little start on it. It's kind of blowing it out a little bit, but there it is. Really pretty. So those will look nice. I have no idea what fabric this is. I think it's Be Stitch Me, but beyond that, I can't tell you. I wasn't very good at writing things down this year. I did start that this year. Next project, Prairie Moon, Thine is the Trick and the Treat. This project was out of print, but Prairie Moon is now selling PDFs, some of their patterns online, and this is one of them. So very nice that they're doing that. Well, very nice it's available, right? Because it's nice to be able to stitch the charts we want. I am stitching this with 2 Victorian Motto flosses, and it's nice. You can actually see the difference in them. I'm stitching it on, hold it up. Yep. So they're very similar. One's more black, one's more gray. I am stitching it on a piece of Under the Sea fabric. It is 40 count Christmas in Williamsburg. I love this fabric. And that's where we are. Not a lot done. I'm just picking places to use the lighter and the darker. Love how that's coming out. This one and the last one are 2 I could definitely see moving in because I think they're very finishable. Smaller projects. And I don't think I've stitched on Thine is the Trick and the Treat for a few years. I really would like to stitch on that. Next project, this is by Plum Street Samplers. Miss Bingley's Library. Love Jane Austen. Actually, right behind me on my shelf. Right there, those books there. I have this bookshelf here is where my Jane Austen books are. So I would like to finish this so I can hang it in my library. I am stitching this with, I think this is actually all the called for fibers, which is a mix of classic Colorworks and Weeks. And I think this is the way it goes. This is on a 46 count Bergen linen, just Zweigart linen and cream. Miss Bingley lives in a very big house, so a lot to do. Most of the house that you see around the windows is stitched. I don't know if you can see that on the camera because it is close to the fabric color. Next project is a sampler I started this year. I love it. Is from Reflect des Soirs. I do not claim to speak any French at all. Marie Cornu is the name of the sampler, and I love the sampler. I started this for a stitch along with my friend Angela, who is Food and Yarn on Instagram, and for her birthday she wanted to stitch a French girl sampler, so this is what I chose. I just love the different motifs at the bottom, and I love the colors of this. Reflect des Soirs charts in silk, but they do give DMC conversions. I am stitching it with the DMC, and I gotta tell you, these colors are gorgeous. You can see those. There is an alphabet here that's kind of getting washed out, but you can definitely see it in person. This is a 40 count platinum linen. And yes, this makes me so happy every time I stitch it because the colors are just really, really nice. Anything that's on 40 count, anything that's 36 or above, I typically stitch with one strand of floss. 20 count Ada the same way. I know I don't always say it when I am when I've been showing you my projects. Next project is Humming of the Bees by Blackbird Designs. This was released at Needlepoint Market this year, 2020. And I saw it and I just need to start it right away. Big red house. You give me a big red house and like, I'm in. I'm stitching this with the called for. And I am stitching it on a piece of 40 count Old Stationery by Seraphim. And I stitched on this a decent amount this year. A lot of border. And here are the colors. And I am loving stitching on this. My only complaint with this project, and if you've watched me this year, you've heard me say it, a lot of the colors when stitched with one strand are so similar. I could have probably done it with half as many colors and it would look very similar. And the model was stitched with one strand of floss. So it's just, you know, just how it worked out. It's fine. I love it. Every time I take it out, I don't want to put it down. Hold up one more time with fibers. Old Stationery is really nice neutral by Seraphim. One of my favorite neutrals is Old Stationery. I love Old Stationery, Platinum, Vintage Country Mocha. Those are a lot of my go-to fabrics. Second Blackbird project I have in progress is Joyeux Noel. Unfortunately, this is an out-of-print book. I am stitching the sampler on the cover. I am stitching it with the called for overdyes. I almost always substitute floss with what I have. Blackbird, I wouldn't say is the exception, but if I am going to stitch with the called for, a lot of times with Blackbird Designs, I will. And this is where I am. And this is going to be completely blown out. We're now like dark here because it's like 3 o'clock in December in New England. But this is a 40 count linen. I don't remember which linen it is, but it's more of a cream than what it's showing. And I love the colors because I love anything that is Christmas that's not necessarily Christmas colors. I stitched the Satsuma Street 12 Days of Christmas a few years ago, and I love it because it's not colors that you would expect for Christmas. So as of now, I only have 2 projects, WIPs, that are Blackbird designs. Neither one of them are my focus. Blackbird is probably my favorite designer. My plan is Blackbird will be the first one I rotate in. And I have those 3 empty slots. I actually didn't put a Blackbird in because I couldn't decide which one I wanted to stitch. My thought going forward is to only have one of each designer going at a time because I like so many designers, and that will hopefully be a way to kind of keep my projects down. Next project, Halloween Quaker by Leela's Studio. I'm stitching this. Oh, pull it down. You can see the chart there. Sorry for the crinkling. Stitching this with the called for overdyes. This was a very popular stitch with people the last couple of years. I know that Michelle Bendy was doing a stitch along with it. A lot of people jumped in at that time. I did actually. I've been had this in my stash for a while, but I just hadn't started it. And that kind of gave me the push to start it. Let me show you where I am. And this is where I am. I obviously did not finish it with Michelle. This is stitched on 40 count Murky by Picture This Plus. And it looks fantastic. I love the way it looks. I really dislike stitching on this fabric. It plays tricks on my eyes. I don't know if it's the Murky or if it's the fact that it's 40 count Murky, because it's a tight 40 count. This is not that big. I got a little frustrated because I made kind of a big mistake and I didn't pull it out. I think I can work around it. I'll show you what the mistake is. If I didn't tell you, you probably wouldn't know, but I'll tell you. So this motif in here, this is over too far. I think this is over too far. It should be closer, but I think it's gonna be fine. Like, I have enough fabric, and if anything, I might just put a couple of bats down there to fill it in if it needs it. I'm throwing overdye floss all over the place. I think that's for Joyous Noel. When you see people do WIP parades and they open and close every bag, like, that's the smarter way to do it, because now I got to make sure I get everything back in the right bags. I think I'll be okay, but that's why people do it. Next project, Leela's Studio, again, Nevermore. Excuse me. I really like Leela's Studio's projects. She has a lot of Quaker designs, which I love, and her use of color is fantastic. I don't have these on a floss ring. I'm using all the called for. I'm just trying to pull them out to show you. So I have not put them on a ring yet. I should do that. Anyways, Nevermore. This is one of those that I did not stitch after I started it. I was pulling it out. I'm like, why? Why did I not just continue stitching it? I love this. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. This is a color and cotton 40 count fabric. I don't know what color. It's an old fabric. It's from when I was in a Fabric of the Month club, like years and years ago. It is very close to Be Stitch Me Frost, because I thought it was Be Stitch Me when I pulled it out, but it's not. I have so many nice projects. I just need to work on those. Next project, I cannot find my cover photo of it, so I will put it in. It is Adam and Eve by Perman of Copenhagen. I started this year. This was a previously unavailable kit. Perman re-released it as a kit. Did not like the colors or the fabric, so I bought the kit, took the chart out, photocopied it, started it on a different fabric with red floss, This is Silk Weaver's Hazelnut in 40 count, and it is so pretty. So pretty. I'm stitching it with an Anchor Red. I forget which number right now. And I cannot find my kit. Like, I know it's in the house because I copied the chart and I put it in a safe place so I wouldn't lose it. It's so safe I can't find it. But I'll insert a picture. I started in the middle of the top because I'm playing a little bit of border chicken here. The top is complete, but I have like a little over an inch on each side. I really wanted to use this piece of fabric and it was barely big enough, but it worked. Next project, I also don't have a cover page printed. This is a Modern Folk Embroidery sampler. The name will be up there. I think it's called something like EF something sampler. It's the one with the red deer on it. I will put the cover shot up. I am stitching this with all the called for DMC floss. And I have an itsy bitsy little start. Look at that, that's it. This is stitched on Be Stitch Me Vintage 40 count. I really need to, I should have stitched on this more. I might stitch on this more before I put this project away because that's not even really a start. I started this at a Frugal Yankee retreat. And one thing about this chart, if you're interested in stitching on it, a lot of samplers, you can stitch on Aida, you can stitch on linen, it doesn't matter. This one would be difficult to stitch on Aida because some of the stitches, this right here, this motif is off from this motif. So when you're stitching over two linen squares, stitching over linen, you stitch over two linen squares. So this is like offset 1. So you would be splitting the Aida in half to be stitching some of the motifs in the center. And I stitched it wrong initially and had to rip it out. And I was at a retreat stitching. This is not good retreat stitching because I was trying to have to think about putting it in the middle of where it belonged in. I wasn't expecting that, but I love the sampler. I am not stitching the Modern Folk Embroidery 2023 stitch along. I love it, but I have too many big projects and I am passing, and I might jump in at a later point, but as of now, I'm not planning on stitching it. I am looking forward to seeing everybody else stitch it though. Next project, do not have a cover photo for. I will put that in here. It is a sampler from Sampler, Antique, and Needlework Quarterly magazine. It was in the last 2 issues that were printed of the magazine. These magazines are available as individual downloads from Annie's, or you can buy the CD, DVD from like Amazon. 1, 2, 3 shops will have that of the entire catalog of the magazine, and that is a fantastic buy. Get every issue of that magazine for like $40. Anyways, this is a Veerland sampler. It is huge, and this is how much I've stitched. I'm stitching this with 310, which is DMC black, on 40 count vintage country mocha with 1 strand of floss. And this is a really fun stitch, and I am loving the way it's looking on this fabric. But it's huge. Let me show you. This piece is cut to size and serged. It's a big sampler. I love big projects, big samplers, but this is why I'm trying to cut down my active projects, because when you have big pieces, it takes longer to finish them. All right, we are down to, I think, the last 3. Next one, I will put a picture in. This is a full coverage project from Heaven and Earth Designs. This is called A Place of Her Own. As you have seen I'm not a huge full coverage stitcher, but I love this design and I couldn't resist. So I stitched on this quite a bit this year, mostly at the beginning of the year, and then I kind of fizzled out. I started this before Pattern Keeper, and I really was having a difficult time. Plugged it in with Pattern Keeper and it became available. And now it's fun to stitch. And I am loving the way it's coming out. So once I finish Hogsmeade, which is in my Focus 23, this is going to go in its place so I can work on it. Because I would like to finish it someday. It's huge. And I'm not going to finish it if I don't stitch it because it's not going to stitch itself. This is a 25 count even weave Lugana, and I am stitching it 1/1. One more time. Lydia's Leisurely Adventure, I believe that's her name. She's a Flosstuber who's stitching this, and she's almost done. It looks fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Hers looks fantastic. I think mine looks pretty good, but hers is almost done, so it's absolutely fantastic. And I'm just gridding with a water-soluble quilting pen as I'm going. Next piece, another full coverage design. I started this after I started the Heaven and Earth designs. I don't know, I thought I was turning into a full coverage stitcher. I enjoy full coverage, but not all the time. But I saw this picture and I had to do it. This is from KDA Cross Stitch, which is a company out of Australia. This is called Westminster Abbey. And I started this as well before it was Pattern Keeper compatible. Now it is. So I have plugged it in. I need to mark off what I've done, which won't take me long because that's what I've done. This is unchanged since my last WIP parade. This is unchanged in the last like 6 years. But that is it. This is 18 count Ada and it's 2/1. I wanted to do 18 count because there's so many dark colors. I wanted to be able to make sure it really covered the fabric. Because sometimes on 25 count 1/1 you get a little bit of bleed through. And this isn't as big of a design. This is, oh, it's not on here. I saw it on here. This is 400 wide by 232 high. Who am I kidding? It's pretty big. That's all I've done. I don't see myself working on that this year because I see myself working on my Heaven and Earth designs. Next project. This is another R&R sampler. It's called the Designer Motif Sampler, and I am stitching this with my friend Julie, Kansas City girl in a Colorado world. She happened to find 2 copies of this at her craft thrift store, and we decided to stitch it together because we've never seen anybody stitch the sampler. We did really well for a little while working on it together, and then we fizzled. So I need to finish my other R&R sampler and then I'll work on this. It actually is really pretty. It's very, very pretty. Much prettier than the cover picture looks. I am using the called for DMC floss and I am working on a 36 count color and cotton. Once again, I have no idea what color it is. So, one more time. Julie is a little bit ahead of me. Like, she did some of the wording. The words are over 1, which I didn't realize before I started because I wouldn't have chosen 36 count, but it is pretty. Next one, I am calling this Prairie Schooler Quartet. I have these cards. These are still available, and I had laid 4 of them out in a grid. If I have the picture of that, I will insert it and stitch on 40 count. 4 of these will fit into an 8x10 frame. So I decided to take something that was small and make it big. Because if I just decided to do 1, I would have been done because I finished 1. the first one. This is on 40 count flax linen. And I'm stitching it with the called for colors. There's only two. It's DMC 3371, which I refer to as Prairie Schooler Brown, and an orange. So fun stitch. There's a lot more stitching in these little squares than you would think though. So I'll insert a picture of them together. Savior's Praise by Shakespeare's Peddler. This is another one that I started with a group of people, and I think I'm probably the only one left stitching it. Started this with my friend Lynette, homesteading on the home front, and a group of people, another group of people I met at StitchCon. I went in 2019. Love the sampler. I'm stitching it on a 46 count Victorian Motto fabric that does not have a name. And this is where I am. Not very far. Stitching it with the called for fibers, which are Anchor, I believe. And I love how it's looking. Love it. I have a small counting error. I can't remember if I fixed it before I put it away. That probably would have been good to know, right? I probably should have fixed it. So when I finish a couple of my bigger samplers, this is going to come out next, because I would like to finish it. I haven't worked on it in a really long time. I think it's been 2020 since I worked on it. Last project. Oh, I love this one. This is Mirabilia Sleeping Beauty. She is an out of print, and for a long time was my unicorn chart. And I happened to come across her, and I should have stitched more with her being my unicorn chart. This is stitched on a 28 count to Picture This Plus Mirage fabric, and I have worked in the corner. She is gorgeous, and I did not want to start, like I said, I like starting in the top left anyways. I did not want to start in the center, because once I stitched her, I was not going to want to move up and stitch that greenery. And I did want to stitch the greenery. I like the way it frames her. So I did stitch on her this year. I did really enjoy it, even though it was greenery. I'd like to get back to this. And that, unless there are any hiding, which there very well could be, those are all my WIPs. So we did it. We made it through. I want to stitch on every single one of them. I did UFO, I think 4 WIPs this year. And when I UFO'd them, I UFO'd all of them because I did not like the fabric, and I plan on restarting them. So, I don't remember what they were. One of them was a Blackbird Designs that had almost nothing done on it, and I'll restart it on a different fabric. One of them was a Teresa Kogut that I started from the Patreon. I loved the design. Hated the fabric. I could not work on the fabric. There was one other. I don't remember. If you didn't see it, it's not a WIP at this point. So, all right, I'm going to put all this away, and then I will, still with me. And if you want to hear what I plan on working on in the year 2023, hang on, and that is coming next. We have reached the end, my friends. All that's left for me to share with you is what I plan on starting in 2023. And the answer to that is not much. I am a little bit overwhelmed by the number of my projects right now. And not so much the number, just the fact that I have so many things I want to stitch on, but I only have 2 hands and so much time. So I'm not able to stitch on everything that I would like to stitch on. I have discovered that this year I am suffering from a little bit of what I am calling decision fatigue. In the past, I would switch projects every couple of days, sometimes stitch on more than one project in one day. Now, when I'm sitting to stitch, I don't want to think. I don't want to be thinking about what do I want to work on now, pulling it out, figuring out where I am. I am pulling out a project and I am stitching on it for 2 weeks or more, which is one of the reasons why I have not made a lot of videos this year. It's nice because my stitching, I'm really enjoying my stitching. I'm getting some really nice progress on a lot of projects. However, I'm also not touching a lot of what I currently have started. So that to me tells me it's time to reduce. I toyed with the idea of doing a no new starts for 2023. I decided against it because I figured I would be setting myself up to fail, because I don't think I could have stuck with it knowing it was so restrictive. The other reason why I decided to do a very limited start instead is because I have a number of charts that were lent to me by very dear stitchy friends that I would like to return. I am very thankful that they have lent me these charts and I am dying to stitch them, but I want to get them back to these friends in a timely manner so that they can then pass it on to another stitcher or do what they would like. So I'm going to run through with you the few things I plan on starting for next year. And with the exception of 2, it's all things that are either a gift or a chart that I am borrowing from a fellow stitcher. The first project I already showed you. It is Beatrix Potter's Quaker Sampler by Needlepoint Press. This is now available as a PDF from Stitchybox. I'm going to stitch it with the called for NPI silks, and I will be using 40 count ballet slippers by Fox and Rabbit. Don't have the fabric right now. It will be my Christmas gift for my husband. Next chart. These aren't in any particular order other than that one, which will be my January 1st start. And what I'll do is, as I finish projects in my focus group, my plan is every second finish to move in one of these new starts. So my net number will go down. October 31st by Cottage Garden Samplers. This is not a large chart, but I love it. I don't have a piece of fabric to show you. I really want to stitch it on like a deep orange or a purple. So I might be playing with some fabric dye. Next, this is a gift for my parents, who I know don't watch this, so I'm going to show. I want to stitch this little Ipswich hosiery witch. My family has a connection to Ipswich, Massachusetts, where the Ipswich hosiery factory once was. So this is not a large chart. However, it is an old chart that is hand drawn, and we know how I feel about those. They're a little bit harder to work on. So I already have it kitted up with the DMC and fabric. I think it's going to be like 5 by 7 when done. It's not big. I would like to get that to them next Christmas. Winter Wonderland by Blackbird Designs. I'm going to be stitching it on a 32 count Belfast Stormy Night by Zweigart. These two go together. They should be relatively quick stitches. Never Enough Time and Good and Proper Home. Good Housewife, Kathy Barrick. And I plan on stitching it on this 36 count Be Stitch Me fabric in honey. Two more. This is the project that I kitted up on my Kit Up a Project with me, and I did not start it yet. It is all kitted up. There was a stitch along going that I said I was going to do. It's Plum Street Samplers, Live on Little. If you want to see what I'm stitching with it, I have a whole video showing. So that will be started at some point next year. Probably when I'm with some of the people who are stitching it. And the last one, sorry for the crinkling. I'm pulling it out here. This is me not being prepared. Touching the Autumn Sky by Mirabilia. It's not a large Mirabilia. I have it kitted up, and I have 2 pieces of fabric pulled for it. I'll need to do a floss toss to decide which one I want to do. Both of them are like blue, kind of cloudy. My daughter was with me and helped me pick them out. So that I would really like to get back to my friend who lent it to me. It is a Mirabilia, so it is a little bit larger than the other projects. Actually, Live on Little is bigger than that, but it's a smaller Mirabilia. There's not a lot of beading. And yes, so that's my plan. That's 1, 2, counting these together, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 planned new starts for the year, and that might be it. I'll probably do a birthday start, so 7 once every other month. That's the plan. So, but as we know, plans can be changed, are meant to be changed, and I will change them as needed. So I am enjoying my stitching. Thank you so much for spending all this time with me and watching what I have to show you for my projects. I hope everybody has a happy new year and is enjoying your stitching. And as I said at the beginning of the video, if you have a WIP parade or planning video, drop the link to it in the comments, because I would love to watch it. And thank you so much, everybody. Happy stitching. Bye.